From Wakefield, it's the Ice-T Meme Show starring NoLdAwG, inviting you to join NoLdAwG and his guest this week, Andrew and Ryan Estus, to the show. And now, ladies and gentlemen, here's NoLdAwG.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, back to the Ice-T Meme Show with yours truly, NoLdAwG. And I thank you for staying with us. And now it's time, for no further ado, than my favorite segment called What Happened Last Week with NoLdAwG. And in this segment, what I like to do is talk about the news and current events and sports, politics, to my best ability, business, health, entertainment, international stuff, to my best ability, of course, and everything. And without further ado, let us begin. In the first story in the Ice-T Meme Show news cycle, in a moment of first, Vice President Harris made a trip last week to Central America, where she was heard saying, "Don't come" to the migrants, hoping to come to the U.S. What's funny about this is that that's what Melania told Donald Trump during their wedding night. A series of unexpected events, Senate Democrats and Republicans agreed on earlier this week a multi-year $500+ billion infrastructure deal, the largest in U.S. history. After hearing this, the military marched to Washington after they weren't given money for spare parts. That's for you, Robin. Early, the country took another sigh of relief as the world learned that disgraced former New York Mayor Rudy Giuliani has been suspended from practicing law in New York after false claims made working for Donald Trump. During this, his son raged so hard, like a dumb sorority girl, he filmed his reaction in the closest Olive Garden parking lot. Earlier this week, the queen of airhead politics herself, Marjorie Taylor Greene, made a comment arguing that paying for contraception effectively amounted to abortion, even though contraceptive drugs do not include induced abortions. And what's the best part of this whole thing is those people want her elected because she's, quote, smart, quote, has good Christian values, and, quote, supports Second Amendment rights, which is also what they say to their local priest before he gives all the boys and girls his Eucharist. According to the Daily Beast on Wednesday, an 80-year-old man from Nebraska murdered his wife because she had Alzheimer's, cop said. If you thought Taki or Hot Cheeto girls were psychotic, this creep makes them look like a puppy to a bunch of teenage girls. But this guy is so uncomfortable. He's like those old men on TikTok who make videos looking for younger women. Last week saw another first as a commercial lobster diver was seriously injured last Friday morning when he was, get this, caught in the mouth of a humpback whale while feeding near a beach. Even Pinocchio and Popeye said, "Yeah, fuck this, I'm out of here." And a news story that got green and blue-haired girls pissed off, Florida made it official as they banned their schools from teaching critical race theory in class. After reading this, every health nut college girl tried to cancel them, their family, and friends so they could feel good about themselves for a few minutes. Last Friday saw a bigger jump in people doing something than people crossing into the U.S. border, as last Friday, 2 million people flew around the country for the first time since before the pandemic started. And 94% of those were college-ready girls finally being able to go to Miami for an overdue spring break or vacation with their girlfriends. In some international news, last week Israel swore in a new coalition ending Netanyahu's 12-year rule over the country as prime minister. We're seeing this on Fox News, the only platform where he's not banned on. Donald Trump cried so hard and much into his gold tasseled pillow that all of his tanning solution and blonde hair coloring formed onto the pillow as his head. That joke was more still than my grandparents' basement. And finally, in the final news cycle story, the Ice-T Meme Show, to round it out, a story more false than Andrew Giuliani's hopes as mayor this past month. Former White House Press Secretary Kelly McEnany claimed last week she never lied as Trump's press secretary, citing belief in God. Yeah, okay. Her saying this is like Ted Bundy saying he didn't like killing people back in the day. Her saying this is also like asking your child if they peed their pants and they say no when you can tell that they did. That's what happened this past week in the news with NoLdAwG. So we're right back to the show and our guests for this week, Andrew and Ryan Estus. 2, 1, and welcome back, everyone. It's been a long return back to the show. It's been a few weeks. We had to move a few things around. One day didn't work for one person and vice versa, but finally we're here. My dear guests on this show, they stuck with it, and after after many times of saying a day and then end up not working out a few days later. They stuck with it and they still want to do it. So I appreciate it again. Back to the show, Mr. Andrew Estus, and debuting on the greatest podcast ever out there. Not Joe Rogan's, not Your Mom's House, the garbage, not Jimmy Connors' show, but mine, the Ice-T Meme Show with NoLdAwG, Mr. Ryan Estus. I want to thank you both for joining me on this show.
No problem. Happy to be
It is
here.
great to be here.
Thank you. For those who are new to this to the show, what this is a podcast. You're surely NoLdAwG, the Ice-T Meme Show, and I have guests on that I enjoy to a great extent, dear friends of myself, in which I consider both of these fine men. What I do recommend is if you like what you listen to or view, do myself and Andrew and Ryan, but more for them because they really want you to like the podcast. They really want you to hit that like button on all platforms, subscribe to it, smash that fucking like subscribe button, follow it on the audio platforms, share it with your friends and family, hit that bell notification button because when you share it and you click that bell notification button and all the other stuff, it really tells me that you enjoyed this and really want to invest further time into it because I know for a fact everyone who views and listens really loves it. But no, Ryan and Andrew really want you to do it. So please, with that, we want to shoot this off to the moon so one day it can be bigger than Joe Rogan's. But as I say, that season 3 is coming to the end. So obviously, I had to have two of the best as one of the last few guests of season 2 before we get to season 3. So that'll be coming up in the next few weeks. Big time guests. Hopefully, we're praying. I'm not that much of a religious guy, but we're praying. So stay with us. We're powering through, but I'm looking forward to this episode. I had so much stuff to converse because I didn't have to think of anything. I couldn't think of nothing to say to talk about. I had loads of stuff to say, so I'll get right into it. Now, I'll start with Mr. Andrew. Now, you were on last, so I'd like to catch up on what your life's been like since you were last. And obviously, I saw you up at Wheeler during your brother's Vanquish. But no, what's been going on in Mr. Andrew's world since he was last on?
I finished up my semester this year, and now I'm working over at Quonset State Airport, helping fuel, park, and service many kinds of airplanes that come in. Pretty mostly civilian, but we get a couple military here and there. It's a pretty cool job. Keeps me busy for sure. Yeah, it's pretty much majority of what I've been doing this summer.
What I'm curious about, mention that because I forgot about it last time we saw each other at the Wheeler match. Joe Biden flew to Quonset, I believe.
He did.
Were you working that day, or did you?
It was the day before my first day.
Yeah. That sucks. That was the day before your first day. That would have been probably the most biggest day in any student's life. Fueling and unfueling planes. That would have been pretty interesting. I don't know if you'd be fueling the Air Force One.
No, yeah, we weren't allowed near it.
that must have been because it was only there for that day. It wasn't there the next day. He was here fast, but how's it feel? I'm also obviously as time goes on we move up, and now you are a upperclassman at Bridgewater, a big junior next year. How's that feel, Mr. Andrew Estus?
It feels pretty weird. Feels like I just started my freshman year.
Yeah, it goes by.
Like recent, feels like yesterday, but it's crazy how fast 2 years going on 3 goes by. So, I'm excited to see what the last 2 years bring, and better than last year.
Yeah, hopefully, yes. We all can attest to that. Even maybe your own brother in particular. But as this pandemic dies down, hopefully, I mean, sometimes they like to say stuff, comes back because, those fucking Republicans don't want to get their fucking vaccine. You have the regulations go down. I'm curious, how is Bridgewater going to operate next fall? Is it going to be all in person, or is it still going to have the option to go online?
Right now, they sent out an email about a couple weeks ago saying that all their residence halls are going to be fully open.
Right.
So there's not going to be the mask. They lifted their mask rules. So you don't, if you're fully vaccinated, you don't have to wear a mask anymore. I think they're going to they're transitioning. They said a long time ago that they were going to be all in person in the fall, pretty much back to pre-pandemic levels.
Right.
I think they'll have some options of online and stuff, just because for some people it works, just for their schedules. I'm taking an asynchronous online art class just to help. But they've always had those even before the pandemic.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're trying to get back to like the pre-pandemic, class.
I know it. I know what you, Ryan. Speaking of you, Ryan, just saw on Twitter that the Ryan Center is going to be full capacity for next season. So we're gonna be able to be rocking and rolling at some basketball games. I don't know. I know what you were either doing. I don't know about Bridgewater. You can maybe speak about this. I know what you were right. They're requiring people to be vaccinated to be on campus. I don't know if they're doing that in Massachusetts. I know Massachusetts has a different situation in terms of pandemic and whatnot.
Yeah, they're requiring it at my school, and I think like if you're taking any in-person classes or living on campus, they require you to get it. Like I just had to send a thing in, like proving that I got it.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm the type of person to be nosy, and my ears tend to be large enough, like elephant ears, to hear stuff. Now, at senior night, you had mentioned this to, I forget someone it was, that you're going to be flying recreationally now and no longer professionally.
Yeah.
I don't want to. I didn't want to speculate anything. For you though, I mean, you're big into flying and stuff like that, and I'll be waiting for my flight with my grandfather and my dad. As I busted Ryan's chops often during the season about that. For you though, how hard was that a decision to switch to just doing it recreationally for fun?
It was difficult. But it's just sometimes hard to manage, school and doing flying at the same time. It's just a different approach on how to get your ratings and your licenses and stuff. I started to see a lot of the benefits of like doing stuff on the ground, like management and doing airport operations and stuff. And I always thought that was really cool. So I'm kind of pursuing that primarily a little bit more. But I'm gonna keep my private pilot license current and stuff. I'll keep using it and flying with it. And maybe one day, like after I get out of school and have like a good job and stuff, I'll be able to like finance getting the rest of my ratings and stuff and using them. But like that's like more. It's more. I'm not really like stopping flying. I'm just kind of like putting it on hold for a little while.
Focus on other things, and it's also a huge economic investment as well for that, because I believe your father said that like the flying was out of pocket for some of the time up there, which is also a thing you have to consider. But I mean, if you love it, you always find your way back to it. But no, it's definitely. Do you regret making that decision, changing?
No, not really. I think it was like a good decision. It was difficult, but I think it was definitely for the better. I think it was definitely like a good decision to make.
Now, we just mentioned a few seconds ago, you're working at the Quonset airport. I'm curious how that came about. Now, was it because you were flying there sometimes, or was it just, hey, I want to, work at an airport to see how it goes?
I've been wanting to work in like an airport and manage an airport one day, or like a facility at an airport. So this is a really good stepping stone to get there. Just seeing how airplanes get serviced, how the inner workings of all that kind of goes on. So it was definitely a really good choice. And I applied to a couple facilities in Rhode Island, one in Newport and one at Quonset, and I got the job at Quonset.
There you go.
So I was pretty happy to get that. And it's definitely, it's really cool. Every day is different. But it gives me a really good idea of how an airport is run, and I'm learning more every day.
And it definitely gives you the skills and stuff like that. And plus, working at Quonset, I'm sure it's a better economic investment compared to Newport, crossing the bridge every day.
Yeah, it's I applied to Newport too because I fly. That's where I rent airplanes. So I'm very familiar with the airport there, but it's nowhere near as busy. You don't get as much like large jet traffic as Quonset. The runways at Newport are a lot shorter.
Now I'm curious. Now comparing that working at Quonset not being as busy, is it as busy or less busy than working as the lifeguard at the Warden's Pond?
Quonset's definitely a little more busy than Larkin's Pond. So, it kind of depends. There's some days at Larkin's that can be. There's some like weekends, and if it's like a nice day, it's usually pretty busy.
So
sometimes.
Are you still working at Larkin's Pond or no more?
Yeah, I'm doing like one day a week.
Oh, okay.
Just
so you're not
give
leaving yet.
time.
You want to keep your stripes and say, "Listen, motherfuckers, I'm invested in this son of a bitch right here." I want to switch it to my new guest now, and making his debut on the show, Mr. Ryan. Like I said before we started going, as I'm stuttering my words like Rain Man. very happy and honored that you came on here and that we were able to get something through. And it's a great deal, Andrew doing this, and a lot I want to discuss, but I want to welcome you again on the show. It's great to have you as one of these guests. And as I usually do with guests, I usually talk about the pandemic and COVID and how it's affected them. So for you, the last year plus, how's it been for you handling it?
It's been surprisingly good. I mean, it's considering the hardships that COVID has kind of brought on everyone. I think just in hindsight, it's been about as well as it could be.
Yeah.
Going into junior year, you just kind of want to get through, that whole stretch of classes. Everyone's always saying that junior year is usually the hardest because it kind of sets up your senior year and all the things that go on then. So for me, at least, I think it was definitely a very different experience. Obviously, considering this is a pandemic that happens probably once every 100 years. But I think considering what we've been through, it was probably about as good as it could be. I mean, it was actually a pretty positive experience, I think, this year, just being at SK. I think the staff really handled it really well.
Yeah.
The administration, I think, made very good decisions for the most part. Some of them, I think, could have been tweaked a little bit better.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But that's not so much as them not doing the job they're supposed to, just that maybe there could have been an easier way to still make these sort of things happen that they needed to.
Oh, yeah.
I think overall, everyone higher up in the district did a very good job at handling what's been thrown at us this year.
And I think they don't get enough credit. I mean, definitely sure they have gotten credit, but I think there have been a lot of parents who have gone crazy, like, oh, this and all that, and gone wild. It's like, they're trying to do the best they can, whether it's at the secondary or at the high school or middle school, elementary school, or even at college level. We're doing the best we can. Most of the people, 99.9% of the people who are right now inflicted by it, weren't alive for the 1919 pandemic 102 years ago. So it's hard to do. And at first it was rough, just extremely rough. I'm sure it was at the high school level and at Bridgewater. But I think overall, I think we tried our best, and I'm glad to see that there was a season, and school to a degree was going through, and the graduation for the seniors. But which I want to mention, this tennis season, which is the main reason why I kind of want to discuss with you, because there were some big points during it that you had a big part to play, and Andrew knows this. But a few weeks ago, and I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what was going to happen. I wasn't know if we're going to have it or not as an alumni member. And we went off for a bang, and you were in charge of it along with your wonderful mother. Senior night. Now, on top of going to school, playing sports, maybe having a job, friends, you were tasked along with maybe the other juniors. I don't know. It could have been just you. Working senior night and making sure it went off. Now, how challenging that was for you? Because I'm sure it definitely brought a level of tenseness trying to get it off in success.
Yeah, I mean, it was a lot of planning, considering we didn't know if we would be able to have it or what could be done. The protocols and the rules of what could be allowed and what couldn't be allowed were always changing at the time. So it was kind of hard to have a concrete plan made like months in advance, we have in past years. If I remember correctly, I think we got the call from Mr. Lynch that senior night was on if we would like it to, 10 days before the home match against Prout. So we really didn't have a lot of time, to work out the kinks, but we pulled it together, and I think it was still a pretty solid senior night, all things considered.
For sure, yeah. I mean, a lot of things were, and I don't mean to jump on top of your coattails, but it definitely, I think as an alumni, and Andrew, obviously, he's got, bias to himself because he's your brother in blood. But I think overall, a week and a half to fucking plan this on top of getting everyone together, previous guys, and getting pizza and this stuff. It was very successful, I think. It was definitely different than years past, but at least they got to do that, and the seniors last year got to come back and stuff. But well done for you. It definitely, I'm sure once it was happening, once you could relax, it was like, oh my God, thank God, because it was definitely stressful. I could tell for yourself, it was definitely something that you would not want to do again.
Yeah, it was definitely interesting, especially the days leading up, just kind of making sure everyone was knowing what they were doing. I think the hardest part was doing the speeches and like the posters and stuff because it only felt right to include the 2020 seniors in the senior night just because they didn't have that last year.
Yeah.
And we did a good job, of making sure that the speeches were done. And I got to give credit to the underclassmen too for stepping up because almost everyone on the team had a role in some way, shape, or form, whether that was making a poster or writing a speech, or some people I think even did a share of both. But everyone really, did their job to make the senior night happen. So even though I got, like I might have been like planning it, I mean, it was still the people who came through and did what they had to do.
Yes, it was definitely, it was very well done. And I always, every senior night, I always get pissed that I don't do this at the end of the night. I had plenty of cake. I had like between the 2 days after from that night and then the night after, I had like 8 fucking slices of cake, and I felt disgusting. I felt depressed. I was like, oh, that's disgusting having 8 slices of cake each night. I didn't have enough pizza. I should have got a few more slices, but I meant my mental faculties kick in and say, oh, 2's enough. That's it, even though I'm hungry afterwards. It was very well done. For you, though, I mean, this doesn't really pertain to Andrew in a sense, but for you, like I mentioned, the challenges and difficulties of senior night, there is also a season, but we only, starting later and only half the season. For you, regardless of, you weren't captain, you're a junior, but what were the difficulties that you think were present during the season? Because I'm sure there definitely were for this season.
Yeah, there was a lot, I think, to sort of unpack, given that, we were coming back after sort of a 2-year hiatus. Well, for one, I think the underclassmen coming in that were their first year playing was definitely an issue.
Yeah.
I think the sophomores that came in this year were all very talented, especially the ones that were able to play varsity their first year on the team. I almost said freshman year, but they were very talented players to be able to crack the doubles lineup that early in their careers. But I think one of the problems that came with COVID is an inability to sort of recruit and to sort of spread the word about the tennis program. And that's sort of where we lost, I think, a lot of players to other sports. But considering the shortened season and how it was a lot later in the year than it typically is, I think we did a good job of sort of working with what we had and being able to develop a lot of, serious young talent from players who usually played other sports. Like I think there was, to avoid using names, there was a player who I think played soccer in the fall and he played tennis this year, and he worked really hard on JV to start the season, and he eventually made the doubles lineup and even played one doubles for a few matches. So, and he's still got 2 more years left. So just sort of that athletic talent that we can use to build sort of a foundation for more years to come. It's definitely had its perks this year, just to at least have a season and get people out there playing.
Mr. Prodigy himself. But no, I use names all the time. I mean, when I had my friend Rob Cruz on last week, or 2 weeks ago, and I mentioned the downfall that I had the episode prior to that. I had to take it down with the fucking guest I had on there. But no, I think, and it's sort of what you mentioned there, reflecting back on, and I think from my perspective, you missed last year. A bunch of seniors didn't get to play. You had underclassmen who had no time to. I mean, obviously you can go out and play whenever you want, but no real construction on improving their game and learning the basics. And it's like throwing newborn babies into the pool, let them float to the surface, and trying to get them to do stuff. And I think obviously not that many people on the team this year because of COVID and whatnot, but the way it started slow, but it ended up finishing better than I expected. Believe me, and I think definitely players on the team I would feel as though had the same sentiment, which is something I want to end the show with. Getting back to it. Now I want to ask. I'll ask you, Ryan, but Andrew, feel free to chime in. Going back to senior night, I think that the highlight of the night for me was when the seniors got their gifts and they opened it up and there was a box in there. And what the box was for the viewers and listeners at home and where you're listening and viewing this across the world, because I have international viewers, believe it or not, was a video game container or case. And on it was I forget, I never can pronounce it correctly, RILL 21. and it was the most genius idea ever. Probably one of the greatest senior presents ever, because usually you get a blanket, or a sweatshirt or whatever it may be. But this year, Ryan switched it up and did the cases, and the back of it was my favorite part. Whereas the different modes was the mathematics mode, dynasty mode, creator player and creator season mode. It was the most genius thing ever. And then to have the legacy edition where it was with Jerry on it was unbelievable. And I'm very proud that I made it to the back cover photo of the video game case. But it was a genius. So I'm curious for you, Ryan, how that came about.
So it was sort of, I mean, it was an idea at first, kind of like all things at this point.
Yeah.
It started with an idea, and I think it was like after a match or something, and I was at home, and I kind of, I was really into Photoshop, I think, at the time, and I still am, but it was sort of like, I sort of just taught myself how to use it. And I think it was like, I was thinking about something that coach had said after the match. And I was like, you know what? I mean, this guy deserves to be on a video game cover.
Yeah.
So I found a template online, and it was like one of those like really weird PNGs, and it was like, it's like Xbox on it. So I put that on like a blank canvas, and I found a picture of Coach online, and I removed the background and put it on it, and then I just put RIL Tennis 21. And I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. I didn't think it was going to go much further than that. And then I thought with senior night coming up, I'm like, all right, I'm going to try to do this. And then I found a bunch of blank Xbox covers on Amazon, and then one thing led to another. And then it officially became a physical product. I mean, there was no disc, obviously, but I still think just seeing the reaction at senior night was definitely one of the better moments of the season for me.
Oh, yeah.
Just to see something like that come to fruition, it was really cool.
Oh, it was fucking brilliant. Now for you, Andrew, I mean, you got, I'm sure, I don't know. I'm sure you were, I don't know. Were you at home while he was doing this, or were you at Bridgewater?
I was at home. Yeah, I was home at the...
For you, what was that like witnessing your brother create the modern day Picasso work?
I thought it was the funniest thing ever. Like when he showed me the first like proof of it, like the first like digital thing, I'm like, that's genius. It was so difficult for me not to tell anyone because I wanted, I was like, this is awesome. Like, but like it was, I think it was so worth a surprise because seeing everyone's reaction.
Oh, it was brilliant. I mean, my dad was confused, I think, because I don't know what the hell was going on. He might have not known what was going on. Of course, Jerry had no idea what was going on. And then my dad in the season, that was phenomenal. I mean, that was, I wish I had thought of something like that my senior. Then again, I'm not artistic, and neither were the Keos or Kaczynski. So overall, a great night. But what I want to and Ryan with you, and then we'll go back to Andrew and I mean both of you. Now, the season, as I mentioned, didn't start out that great. 1-4, and the team, the individual players didn't do as well. But what can we do when you get top heavied with the top 5 teams in the division, and then the tides turn. The night changes to day, and finish the season 5-4. And you, Mr. Ryan, go on, what was it, a 4 or 5 match win streak to end the season? The regular season?
It was something like that. Yeah, it was like, I think it was 5 or 6. I mean,
now for you, I mean, that definitely is something obviously to be proud of, and it's something where you're like, how did this happen? But for you, kind of walk me through what that was like for you mentally, as well as I guess emotionally, to go through that win streak.
I think it was there's definitely a benefit to playing the 5 hardest teams in the division as your first games.
Yeah,
because it gives you a sense of where you are at mentally, emotionally, and definitely physically to play that kind of talent early on. It definitely gives you a workout in all 3 of those categories, and it makes you a better player because to be able to play that talent and to sort of come out of it with a learning experience, especially coming from someone it was their first year in the singles lineup, to have that experience very early in the season was definitely one that I think paid off in the long run, because then I went on that streak of wins. But I think I definitely took a page out of the playbook in terms of having a higher shot tolerance, and just definitely improving my game in all different variations. But yeah, for sure. And then I think it was just a really great experience just overall.
Yeah.
I think just to be in the shoes of a singles player, and after since I've been watching these matches since I was like in fifth or sixth grade, when my brother was on the team.
Yeah.
I mean, just to be in this role is just unbelievable still.
For sure. I mean, it helps, when you're playing fucking schools like Proud and Smithfield. And no offense to Smithfield and Mary Lou Morris and her team, but it feels good, especially to get a win like that. But it was a very marvelous thing to do. Now, the next match, which was probably one of the biggest and it was a state championship level match, I think, in terms of quality of play and in terms of intensity. Andrew was there, your father was there, the team was watching. Quarterfinal match, SK Tennis for everyone viewing, listening. SK fifth seed maybe, and Wheeler was 4. I don't know. And it comes down. Winner moves on, loser goes home. We play it. One doubles wins. Jimmy Robin wins 2-0. Danny McGovern loses the match. 1 doubles loses. 3 doubles loses. Now it's 3-2 Wheeler. So, and I'm like, fuck. And I'm sure both of them were shitting in their boots as well in the meantime. And then it comes down to Ryan Estus and Matt Burns. Now, the other team Wheeler had stacked their line and switched players around. Like they're trying to play find the penny in the cup trick. And it still didn't matter at the end of the day. Matt Burns pulls out a tight match in the 3-set win, and I cursed back and forth with the fucking assistant coach, as I normally do in any situation. I bite myself in the foot. And then it comes down to one match, and it's Ryan Estus. The crowd's watching. Battle back and forth. Goes to a third set. It's a tiebreaker. Boom, boom, boom. 5-4, 6-4, 7-4, set point, match point, team point, victory, moving on to the semifinals at LaSalle. Now, for you, I'm sure you were in shock for the next 24 hours. Walk me through what you were thinking during that match, whether it be from the beginning to end. I mean, in an abbreviated version, obviously, because we don't have 3 billion hours.
Right. I think it was just it's one of those matches that comes along every once in 100. I would say. I mean, it was truly just a match where I wish that I could have absorbed more of it in the heat of the moment.
Yeah.
And I think I did actually really well. But I mean, the kid I was playing, I think it was Harry Fang, but fantastic player. I mean, I think he's a freshman, so he's still got 3 more years ahead of him. So he's definitely going to go places. But I mean, he was a great opponent. I mean, he was, he shook my hand at the end, and we both knew it was a great match that was played. But I think it was definitely a fight, though, and I think that it definitely came down to mental toughness in the end, because just to hang in that match for 3 hours or something, it was brutal, and I think it was weighing on us big time, both of us. And it came to a moment, I think, when I was sitting on the bench during a changeover in the 3rd set, and I was thinking of a match I played earlier, and I think it was at the earlier this season. It was Hendricken, and I was playing Braden Allen at 4 singles, and I had lost that one in 3 sets. So the question that was on my mind was, what can I do differently now that I failed to do against Braden Allen and pull this thing out? And I think it came down to a few things. So then I went out there and I focused on those few things, and made sure that I was resetting after every point mentally, not getting myself down, knowing that the team had my back, and just making sure that, I was going to pull this one out. And I did. So it was definitely a great experience to be in that match, and even just to get the win out. But I think it was just amazing, to finally just come out on top in those matches where I've been so close but fallen short.
Now I'll throw it to Andrew after this. For you, though, I mean, those last few points definitely had to be very tense mentally for you, because you're playing this and you're 3 points away from winning it for yourself and the team. And then also you have everyone watching. It's not just your brother and your father, but myself was there, Buren was there, and then the team, and then the other team and their parents. So I'm sure it had to have been really heavy on you mentally to finish it off like that.
Yeah, I think it's just something that you've got to learn how to tune out. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're playing at Curtis Corner. It doesn't matter if you're playing at Arthur Ashe. I mean, the crowd's not, in the end, it shouldn't be a factor in your head when you're playing these sorts of games where the points can mean everything. And luckily, I definitely had that mindset going into the third set and the tiebreaker, especially. Just keep your head down, put your blinders on, as coach told us at the beginning of the match, and just, get the win for the team. And it felt great to pull it out at the end.
Now, I mean, for Andrew, I mean, I was there watching. You went to the Hendricken game, and this was another match you went to after. I mean, obviously, compared to me, I clearly I didn't have although I did have a life, but I went to all their matches besides the first two, and you went to the one, and then into this one. For you though, watching it from the sidelines, how stressful it was for you? Because I'm sure as his older brother, it definitely was stressful because you've been in the singles lines before.
Yeah, I was definitely on the edge of my seat the entire time, even the Hendricken match too. It was really close. There's a lot of times where it could have gone either way, so it was just like it was great. I mean, I was definitely getting a workout in just standing there.
Oh yeah.
So I could imagine how Ryan felt, but the Wheeler match, especially me and my dad we were pacing around. It was hard to stand still towards the end.
Well,
I remember
you and your father didn't move spots. You stayed underneath that tent and around the area. Meanwhile, myself, I kept moving. Obviously, you probably moved, but back and forth around this side, that side, and it just was unbelievable. And it was one of the greatest matches ever. I thought it wasn't going to be I didn't think, and I didn't know what was going to happen. I thought the team was going to get blown out, and it was sweet because that team. I hate players who talk to other players during a match, and that happened in doubles that match. It happened in every single match where your opponents and I hate when your opponents try to talk to you like your friends, and it's like, listen here, motherfucker. I'm here to collect fucking W's and kick your ass on the tennis court and off the court if I have to. And I'm not here to make friends with you. Thank you very much. Good day. I'm winning. And I think that got to all the players' heads. And what I commend Ryan on is serious the whole time. And he's like that every single time. I like to come around, cheer, and try to put my 5 cents in like I'm some coach or whatever. And he's just focused. And that's what I like. And that was a very great match. Now, both I want to say this one of the last few questions things I want to discuss. Similar to myself, we share a love for a certain type of music. Unfortunately, the players that we've played together, me and Andrew, as well as Andrew and you, Ryan, I guess I can add myself with that conversation with you and Ryan. We all enjoy the music that's quality, and it's not really auto-tuned, unlike most kids. And fans of classic rock and other classic music of the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Most people like Lil Uzi Vert and DaBaby and all that shit. And Ryan and Andrew, I never did it, would plug their phones into the speaker of the limo bus and play it, and I'm sure they got booze from it. Where did the love for classic rock come from and other music from that period come from, boys?
I remember I went on this trip down to the Florida Keys with my Boy Scout troop, and there was a lot of my friends who were down there with me. They liked classic rock a lot, and they showed me a lot of the fundamentals. I remember hearing there's other troops there too that also listened to a lot of classic rock, and we were in this big dorm room. There was 20 bunk beds in there, and there's a troop from Texas that was there, and this one kid had the speaker going just full of classic rock. And I remember that was one of the first couple times I heard Centerfolds, and I still have it on my playlist today. So those moments kind of just got me into it. That's when I first started drifting towards that. Before that I kind of listened to everything, but that was really when I started enjoy appreciating classic rock a lot more.
Oh yeah. How about you, Ryan? What got you into that music? Someone to your brother?
Yeah, I would say probably my dad as my main influence. Okay. I mean, he's definitely a big listener of 70s, 80s, not too much 90s, but mostly the 80s, I would say, is his main genre. So your your Led Zeppelins, your Rushes, AC/DCs, and I would say Andrew as well as a main source of that, because I would sort of mooch off his playlist every once in a while, and I would find some good songs that I liked. But I think just having that common exposure to rock kind of from all sides of our family, it definitely contributed a lot to today's preferences of music.
For sure. And I have to piggyback on that. My father, played a lot of that stuff. A big U2 fan. I'm not a big U2 fan. I've heard a lot of their music, so it's kind of like I can't sit and listen to it. But it's definitely something. And you look at it and you say, look at the songs. Now, you look at this rock music. Big fan of the Beach Boys. The music, their hits were in the early 60s. Let's get that out of the way. Early 60s were when their hits. And still present today. They're still, music is still popular as ever. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but there are many groups on Facebook dedicated to the Beach Boys. Dozens and dozens and dozens. And you see, it's like, holy shit, 60 years later, and their music still is popular. I'll be a son of a bitch. That's amazing. And then you look at this, for example. You look at a song, rap music. Nothing against them. They're talented in their own rights. At least they believe they are. Look at a song from a year ago. A rap song. Can't think of any. I don't listen to rap music. Is it popular? One of the more popular ones. Is it still popular today? I don't know. You look at I'll give you an example. Migos, the song Ric Flair Drip. That song was popular 3 or 4 years ago, whatever it was. Nowadays, no one talks about it. No one really plays it besides Ric Flair when he still wants to be relevant. And it's like, this is what that music does. It stays relevant and it stands the test of time. And you see these groups still together. 30th anniversary, 40th, 50th, 60th anniversary. And it's still impactful. You see a case in point, George Harrison has been dead for 20 years or almost 20 years. Just released the 50th or 40th anniversary of All Things Must Pass, his record, a 4 collection. And it's like, this man's been dead, but still people want it and still want to buy it. And it's impressive. What I will say is this. So this is the last few things I'll mention. Top 5, if you can, top 5 or top 3 favorite classic rock performers, both of you.
First, Ryan.
Oh, me first? Okay,
Yeah.
I can do that.
If you can't think of 5, do 3.
Yeah, I can do 5. So let's see. I'll go from 5 to 1 because countdowns. Let's see. Number 5. And this isn't saying they're bad. This is just in terms of what I would rank them as. I would say Weezer. I do like Weezer. I think they're more 90s, but there's a few of their hits that I really like. Buddy Holly is a good one. Island in the Sun. Beverly Hills is a good one. Just a solid band overall. Nothing to complain about there. Let's see. Number 4. I mean, this is really hard. I mean, I do like Sublime. Sublime is pretty good. I'm trying to think of a band, but I'll do an artist instead, and I'll say Billy Joel.
Oh yeah, that works. It doesn't have to be bands. It can be artists.
Yeah, Billy Joel is I really like Billy Joel. I think it might be just a combination of just the style of music he has. It's very piano based, but I think it's the genres he's able to cover with a single instrument is pretty cool and fascinating, I would say. And there's countless songs I could name as examples, but I'd say one of my favorites is probably Scenes from an Italian Restaurant. That's a good one. So that's number 4. Number 3.
That was 3 because you said Weezer, then Sublime, then Billy Joel.
Oh, I was just mentioning Sublime. I think that 4 would be Billy Joel. Yeah.
Okay.
3 I would say is Green Day.
Okay.
Green Day's pretty good. Your usual albums. I'd say American Idiot's probably my favorite, or I think it's a tie between that and Dookie as my favorite albums. Basket Case, When I Come Around, Longview, just the basics. But it's a very solid band, very good music. Number 2, I would say Led Zeppelin.
Okay.
They've definitely been trending upward, I think, lately on my playlist, as I've noticed. I've been listening to a lot of their stuff. I can't name any particular albums from them. I just can name the songs, but I mean that's really all you need to know. Um, Stairway to Heaven. If I didn't mention that one, I feel like I'd be doing them a disservice.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great song, timeless. Black Dog is good. Uh, yeah, just a very solid band, and I'll definitely be listening to them for a very long time afterwards. And the number one spot, in my mind, goes to the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Okay.
So I've been listening to them since freshman year, and I would actually have very fond memories of going to away matches on the bus freshman year for tennis, and I'd have I think it was I had like a compilation playlist, but I have like Under the Bridge, Scar Tissue, and a lot of those songs from Chili Peppers. But that would be like one of my best memories from tennis would be the away trips. But it would sort of get me in a good mindset to get out there and play some tennis. But just overall, I think it's been a very enjoyable band. I would say that's probably my number one.
Estus, Junior Captain Estus. How about you? Now it can be top 5. It can be you can have bands and solo artists in the top 5 or top 3 as well.
All right, cool. So my top 5 in no particular order. I like Boston a lot. Boston's really good. I like AC/DC.
Okay.
I think they're pretty solid. Who else do I like? Oh, Aerosmith.
Okay.
I like Aerosmith. Rush is another good one, and Foreigner. I think those are like kind of my like top 5 at the moment.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Now, if I have to go, me personally, I don't really feel as though I need to share, but I will just reciprocate. And I think for me, I mean there is an order, but it's hard to say. And I just had my phone out, tried a quick look. I think Billy Joel definitely. It's just for me though. For me listening music, it's definitely the vibe I'm in the moment. Sometimes certain music I listen to. I mean, the Beach Boys I play all the time, all day. Billy Joel I'll listen to, but it has to be a certain moment. Bob Dylan has to be a certain moment. I will say though, I think that number 2 for me, George Harrison, by far one of my favorites of all time. I think. Sure. I mean, Ringo Starr. No offense to him, but not the biggest Beatle of them all. Then there was John Lennon and Paul, both very successful, great. I mean, John Lennon didn't have enough time to be as successful as they should have been. And yeah, Paul McCartney was very great, has done very well in his solo tour as well as the Beatles. But I think George Harrison was better because he was more for the music and less for the spotlight compared to, I think, Paul and maybe Ringo. I think number 1, though, definitely is the Beach Boys. I love their music. I mean, just like you said about Billy Joel, the genres that he did and was able to cover, did master of a job. And I think the Beach Boys, they covered so many different, not genres, but topics and discussions, because it just wasn't about like California life and the sun and girls and cars and that type of stuff in summer. And they talked about, depression, mortality, relationships. You had a song, A Day in the Life of the Tree, off their Surf's Up album. They made an album strictly in Holland. So they covered so much, and it now is, being appreciated more. I think also James Taylor, one of my favorites of all time. He's got great songs. And I think, so that's 3. Eric Clapton's there. I love Eric Clapton, although recently he's become more of an anti-mask and vaxxer, which is unfortunate that in this current political climate, it affects what we view on people. His stuff is beautiful. For what else? I can't really think. What else do I have here on my floor? I have loads of records. I think what I will say now, it doesn't really count, but I guess it could now. The drummer of the Beach Boys, Dennis Wilson, he almost had a solo tour, but he put out 2 albums unfinished. Bamboo and Pacific Ocean, both the most beautiful, heart-wrenching, gut-wrenching stuff ever. And those are my top 5 in no particular, but the Beach Boys are definitely number 1. Now, the last thing I want to mention, as we got 15 minutes, at least for you guys. A few years ago, we saw a movie together after going to Applebee's, that's like my voice cracks. The Rise of Skywalker. We go to Applebee's, Ryan's out there, he's got a party to go to, and he leaves just for us. And we go see it in Applebee's. A lovely lady, Mrs. O'Pierce, comes and serves our table. And it's me and my father sitting on one side, Andrew, his girlfriend, his father sitting on the other side. Now, me personally, I'm not blind. Some people may be. I'm a good judgment of people, I would think. I tend to hold on to grudges a little longer, but who cares? I don't give a fuck. No, I don't see the resemblance we share. And Miss O'Pierce, who's a sub, and bless her heart for those out there viewing, listening, says, "Are you all related?" No. I look like my father. You guys look like your father. I don't know how we look alike. Both you and your brother and your father tend to have a darker pigmentation of skin than me and my father. Me and my father are more the color of Ryan's bedroom ceiling than your brothers. And we're like, no, we're not. We're just friends. And I was like, how is that possible that we look alike? Regardless, food was great as always. And we go see the movie. And it was one of the greatest moments of my life seeing it because it was such a great movie, and I'm looking forward to the next ones. But I'm sure you both enjoyed that movie as well because I know we kept looking and talking to each other during it. And
Yeah. I'm sorry.
no, either.
Yeah. I think it was very solid wrap to the Skywalker saga. I've been watching Star Wars as long as I can remember. I mean, with my brother and my dad. My mom's not really too much of a fan, but I mean,
she's probably a Star Trek fan.
She tries. No, it's all right. I mean, but yeah, I think it was a really solid movie. I think it definitely did fan service very well. I think there were a lot of reveals that people who had been fans of the franchise for a long time certainly appreciated. I think, well, I mean, I'm just going to get right into the spoilers, but when Lando appears, I think that was really cool.
Oh, that was amazing.
Because no one's really seen him in movies for quite some time. Seeing some of the smaller, minor characters from the sequel trilogy come back, like Rose from The Last Jedi, that was really cool just to see them, show up in another movie.
Yeah.
My one critique, I would say, segueing into this would be if she had a bigger role in the movie, because it kind of focused on her a lot in The Last Jedi. And I kind of thought it was odd how she kind of disappeared into the background in The Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that she at least was in the movie for the most part. And because I think they really wanted to delve into the connection between Finn and Rose after The Last Jedi, when Rose sacrificed herself to save Finn. But, we all wish for stuff.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, I think it was a very, very solid end to the saga.
Yeah.
And it's kind of interesting because now there's not too many, I guess, so to speak, traditional movies coming out as part of the Star Wars extended universe in the next few years. I know they announced the Patty Jenkins Rogue Squadron, which does not have a release date yet, but it seems like it'd be pretty good.
Yeah.
But they seem to be focusing mostly on Disney Plus series for the next foreseeable future, which I'm definitely not critiquing. I actually have been an amazing fan of what they've been able to create so far, whether that be The Mandalorian, which I have been a huge fan of since the beginning. I'm sure Andrew can say the same. The final season of Clone Wars, which was amazing as always.
Oh, yeah.
And more recently, The Bad Batch, which has been absolutely fantastic.
I love the most recent episode of the Bad Batch.
The episode 8 has been everything I wish the series could be and more.
Yeah.
But nothing still but bright future for Lucasfilm and Star Wars.
Now, Andrew, I don't know if you hold the same sentiment as not for the episode, but I'm sure to a degree you do.
Yeah, no, I agree with all of that. I enjoyed Rise of Skywalker. I think it was a good, I think any Star Wars movie I think is good. Like, there are some plot holes. I think there were some questions that could have definitely been answered better. Like Snoke, I feel like they just showed a bunch of clone Snokes. Didn't say why. I know like Palpatine created him, but I feel like there's got to be more of a backstory. I think overall I liked it. I thought it was really cool. I thought it was cool to see Lando come back and see a lot of like veterans from the original trilogies come back, especially at the scene at the end when all the ships, like thousands of ships show up. Like I think it was cool to like Wedge Antilles like make a cameo in there. Like I think it was cool to like bring back a lot of the older cast. But yeah, I agree with Ryan too. I think Mandalorian and all the Disney Plus shows that they have going on, I think they're appealing to a big fan base and everyone seems to be happy. Like everything that's come out, I think has made people happy. I think the sequels is kind of like a on and off for some people, but as so far from what I've heard, like all of the live action shows and the Clone Wars, everyone who has seen it, like along with me, enjoyed it. So I think that's good to see, and it's good to see they're coming out with more.
And I think at the end of the day, which is the main mission point of it, it's fulfilling, I guess, what George Lucas always wanted to do to, leave an impact on it. Now, is this the direction he would go in? Maybe not. I don't know. I think it was. I mean, he was involved with the six out of the seven, or not the last one, not in particular that much, but most of them for Clone Wars he was involved with heavily, and obviously based the characters off the other ones. But it's continuing the impact that they had, and the sequels definitely had a preference to some, and some liked it, some didn't. I'm a nostalgia fan, so I did enjoy Last Jedi to a degree. I thought it was cringe. Unlike Ryan, I didn't enjoy Rose. I didn't think she was my favorite character, but overall, it is what it is, and that's what makes Star Wars great. You can have different opinions, but I think the Rise of Skywalker, definitely, as you said, Andrew, there definitely were opinions that are plot holes that you're like, how does it happen? Or, for example, I mean, everyone knew, I think, if you're a big Star Wars fan, that Palpatine was going to come back, but he just comes back after dying twice, once. That now all of a sudden, like Richard Nixon, I'm back. And all of a sudden, it's a surprise. It comes back again. And it's like, huh? Or at the end with, spoiler alert, Rey Skywalker. It doesn't make sense, but whatever. But Lando Calrissian was my favorite. And what really tells you about how big of an impact Star Wars has is when you're at Applebee's with friends, and your friend brings his girlfriend, and all you're talking about for the majority of it is Star Wars ships and your favorite cruiser and that stuff, which was a large chunk of the conversation at Applebee's, which tells you that Star Wars is a special thing. But I remember each time I'd look over to both of you and I'd be like, oh my gosh, did you see that? Oh my gosh. And I liked Wedge until I'm looking forward to the stuff. I'm pissed that the Obi-Wan series took so long and that it was going to be movies, but now it's episodes. And Clone Wars was great. Bad Batch was phenomenal. I'm looking forward to The Mandalorian. I don't know what the book of Boba will be, but who knows? But it's a bright future. But man, that was great. But Ryan and Andrew Estus, this has been a blast, man. Boys, I had fun. This is your time here on the Ice-T and Mew show with NoLdAwG. I really appreciate it. I think we ended a little early, 6 minutes early. We ended. But no, I appreciate greatly. I can't begin to express what the appreciation I have, sticking with it. And after a week of, oh, this date works for me. Oh, but it ends up this doesn't work for this person. You're moving it around, still doing it, still committed to it, and jumping to it. And I mean, I thank you, Andrew, for recommending to have your brother on the show. And I'm happy that we were able to have both of you, and that the audio worked for both of you guys. And it wasn't like you could hear each other in the same room. But I enjoyed it, and I had to mention rock and roll music. I had to do that because I know that's a big part, and we joke about it a lot. I had to mention Unite, but I say sincerely from the deepest depths of my heart, I thank you both very much for coming on the show. It means more than I can express. And for those out there who are listening, viewing, where the hell you're doing with the show, if you like what you're listening to or viewing, smash the fuck out of that like button or that thumbs up button. Click that bell notification on and subscribe out of this motherfucker so much. Click that arrow button, because what that does is share it to other friends and family, and that tells us, hey, listen, hey, mom, dad, cousin, grandpa Billy, whatever it is, watch this great episode, listen to this great episode with NoLdAwG and his two wonderful guests, Andrew and Ryan Estus, talk about rock and roll music, Star Wars, and so much more. It means a great deal because I want this to expand, because right now I'm doing it in my room, folks, and I want to move out and do it, make it big, because it's just a green screen behind me. So one day I'd be like the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, not Jimmy Fallon. Fuck that version. But that's all I can say. Bigger and better things are coming up. But I'll end with this. Tune in next week for another edition of the Ice-T Meme Show. It's gonna be great. And until then, take care and good night. And the words of Johnny Carson, the legend and role model, I bid you all a heartfelt good night. See you, folks.